Hello everyone, this is Grandmaster Ankit Rajpara here. I welcome all of you to the special collaboration between Chess Neurons and ChessBase India. For this episode of Strategic Mastery series, we'll witness the journey of World Championship challenger Grandmaster Gukesh after becoming Grandmaster to reaching 2600. As we all know, Gukesh became Grandmaster at the age of 12 in 2019, and after that, he played some tournaments, but there was a break due to the COVID, and then in 2021, he resumed the tournaments and he reached the rating of 2600. So we'll look at some instructive examples and we'll try to learn from that. So this is the first position. Here Gukesh has black pieces and it's black to play, and if you want to attempt this position, please pause the video here and resume once you are ready with the move. So as I mentioned, Gukesh is black and his opponent is Shabid Al-Assad. So let's try to understand this position now. So Gukesh has the double bishop advantage. As you can notice, material is equal, but one thing is that the center is stable, the position is a bit more on the close side, but this seems like the King's Indian structure because the bishop is on g7, the pawn is on f4. So for that reason, it's important that black creates some activity on the king side. Also, because white has space advantage on the queen side, white will try to go for c5 ideas and then create some activity. So it becomes important for Gukesh to create some activity on the king side. And he found a really nice idea to do that. So he started with the move knight f5. So the thing is, he improves the knight's position and then he wanted to centralize the knight to get to d4 to put more pressure on white. And also this knight was under pressure. So he captured that. His opponent captured this pawn. Now see, it's very important to not to go for the automatic recapture. So just because our opponent is captured doesn't mean we have to capture back. Gukesh was like, I don't want to allow this knight to get to e4 because if that happens, this bishop will be blocked. He wants to activate all the pieces, even at the cost of material. So in this position, he did not capture the pawn. He played e4. He's like, if you want my pawn, you take it. But my bishop has gotten active. So, and white's in serious trouble actually. And in this position, after g takes h7, once again, he played king h8, not king takes h7, because then knight takes e4 and then there can be some discovery. He didn't want all that. He's like, okay, you want to take my pawns? You take it. By the way, he's 3 pawns down in this position, but he is a completely dominating position. Why? Because f3 and then king side is under pressure. This bishop can also join in. This bishop is also putting some pressure here. And look at this active bishop. It's putting pressure on this rook as well. And that's too much for white to handle. So white played rook b1. Gukesh continued with f3. He's like, no problem. Your king side is weak and I'm going to put pressure on that. And then after g3, he played bishop into h3 and then just bishop g2. Look at that bishop. Look at this pawn. Look at white's king. And then it was just a matter of time before Gukesh managed to win this game. So a really nice demonstration of putting pressure on opponent's king side because he has the activity there, and then he converted that by putting pressure on. It's important not to just look at the king side. By playing this, he started putting pressure on the queen side and it was just too much for white to handle the both. Now, let's go for the next position. So this time Gukesh has white pieces and he is playing against international master Unuk Laura. Now, if you want to attempt this position, please pause the video here and resume when you are ready with the move. So let's try to understand this position. So as we can notice, the material is equal, the queen exchange is being offered and black's king is in the center. So let's say if we exchange the queens, then king's safety won't be that much of an issue. In fact, king will be a bit more active on e7. So, and then black can try to get one of the rooks on the d file and it would be about equal position. Now if you move the queen or say play b4, rook a c1, something like that, then the thing is that black might try to exchange the queens and then go king e7. So, or even rook d8 in some cases after exchanging the queens, because king's safety, as I mentioned earlier, won't be an issue. So what Gukesh wanted to do, Gukesh wants to keep the queens because black's king is in the center, but there is a problem. Let's say if you play something like queen c4, queen g3, or if you go somewhere else with the queen, then he recognizes that black will be able to castle. So, but he didn't want to allow that. So he found a really nice idea to deal with that by playing rook d6. So after this move, black will either have to give up a pawn or keep the pawn in the center. So what's the reason? Because let's say if castle, because this is what happened in the game, Gukesh played this very nice move, rook into c6. This queen is undefended and he's able to win a pawn because of that. The king is not on e8 anymore. So this is what happened. He got his rook on the 7th rank. He's up a pawn. He's active pieces. And he went on to win the game. So a really nice idea, a really nice prophylactic move to stop black from castling, because that would cost her a pawn. So let's say if black had played something like queen e4, no problem. We can just keep up the pressure. Opponent takes the pawn. Queen e5 check. It's time to put pressure on the king. The last piece gets into the game. Queen g4, just rook f4. And then centralizing the queen. And the idea is to play rook d7 next. And this is just too much for black to handle. And then this, yeah. So instead of all this, as we saw, she played castle, but then she lost a pawn. And then, yeah, Gukesh went on to win the game. So a really nice example by Gukesh to take advantage of opponent's king in the center. Now, let's go for the next position. So this is black to play here. And Gukesh's opponent, so Gukesh is black here. And Gukesh's opponent is none other than Surya Shekhar Ganguly, another strong grandmaster from India. Now, if you want to attempt this position, please pause the video here and you can resume once you are ready with the move. Alright, so as we can notice from this position, black's up a pawn, but Ganguly's rook is on the 7th rank. His knight is also centralized. So it's not that easy for Gukesh to create activity. But it's important that if opponent's pieces are active, then we should try to do something about it. So Gukesh started with something. He's like, let's try to deal with this centralized knight. Now, Ganguly captured the pawn. See, it's very important. And many of us would do this mistake. Opponent captured, let's also capture. By the way, we notice this tendency of Gukesh of not capturing immediately, not playing those automatic moves. In one of the earlier examples as well, so if I would have to show you, then it would be this example where we saw that after this, he did not capture this automatically. He was like, I want to activate my pieces. So something similar we can notice in this position as well, that he is a bit skeptical about automatic recaptures. Yeah. Why? What's so bad about it? Because if e takes f5, then white will play rook g1. Suddenly, now because f5, see, because of f5, this pawn is not on g4, and then rook g1, and suddenly there could be pressure from here, and then there are chances of white getting away with perpetual checks. We don't want that. Gukesh is for pawn, so he wants to win. So what did he play? He played rook takes d1. Extremely important move. He doesn't want to allow any of the counter play. Then, in this position, so after this, rook takes d1, king takes d1, e takes f5. So now what has happened? The centralized knight will be gone, and after this exchange, this pawn has also become a pass pawn. So Ganguly played knight c5, Gukesh exchange, and then it's time to push the pass pawn. So, and then it will not be easy for white to deal with that, because Gukesh has the bishop, Gukesh has the rook, and this pass pawn. So those rook and bishop will get coordinated and will create issues. Then the game continued like this, and then Gukesh just brought the bishop back. He's up a pawn, he has this pass pawn, white doesn't have that much activity, and Gukesh went on to win the game. So an extremely important victory and a really nice example of if your opponent has active pieces, then how to properly deal with it, and don't go for automatic recaptures, otherwise you could get into trouble. So now let's go for the next example. So this time Gukesh has black pieces and his opponent is candidate master Vardhanyan Aras. So if you want to attempt this position, please pause the video here and resume once you are ready with the move. So let's try to understand this position. Black's up a pawn. Okay, black has this advanced pawns, and then this pawn is also hanging. It's just so black's pawn is just 2 squares away from being promoted. That's great. That's great. But we have to be a bit cautious, because in this position, white is threatening this, and queen d8 would be made, by the way. So yes, white has some activity. So we should should not give them more opportunities. So a natural move in this position seems to be, let's exchange the rooks, slide the king over, and then promote. But once again, if only chess was that easy, we have to be careful about opponent's ideas. How much ever good the position may seem, opponent might have some ideas of their own. So after this king h7, there can be this sneaky check. And if g6, then exchange, and queen d7 check. So those checks are coming, and that can help white in getting away with perpetual checks. So Gukesh was not going to allow that. Yeah, so what he did in this position, he played this very important move, queen b1 check. What does he achieve by that? He covers this diagonal. What's so important about this diagonal? We'll see. So rooks are exchanged and the king goes to h7. Now the queen is not on a2. Gukesh brought the queen to b1 earlier, so there is no queen d3 check. This whole diagonal is covered, and then he can just push it, and this is just lost. Because, as I had mentioned earlier, if Gukesh had not played queen b1 check and had taken the rook, then this, and then this can happen. But the constant checks are coming, and then white gets perpetual checks. White will get away with a draw. Not the thing that we want. So what Gukesh recognized, rooks must be exchanged, but he doesn't want to allow white to give checks on this diagonal. So he played queen b1. And then this, no more checks on the diagonal. This pawn will promote. This is just completely lost, and after b takes a3, Gukesh's opponent resigned. So a really nice demonstration of Gukesh of paying attention to opponent's ideas, however good his position may seem, and then he went on to win the game. Now let's go over the next example. So this is white to play here, and if you want to attempt this position, please pause the video here and we can resume once you are ready with the move. So as you can see, by the way, Gukesh's opponent in this game was international master Rakoto Maharo. So and Gukesh had white pieces. So if you look at a bit deeper into this position, then Gukesh's knight is well placed on c6. His pawn is also well placed, central pass pawn well placed on d5, though it's blocked, but still. So this bishop is also active, though g4 has been played, but it's not like black's pieces are not that active that black can take advantage of Gukesh. Is a bit weaker king goes a pawn on g4, queen is here, bishop is here, not to be worried. So it's clear that Gukesh is better in this position. But see, it's very important to increase our advantage, to keep on putting pressure on the opponent. So Gukesh knows that he's better, but that constant pressure must not, go away. You don't want your opponent to get any chance. And he played a really nice move to demonstrate that. So in this position, he played rook e6. He's like, I want to improve the rook's position. I don't want to keep this rook on the queen side. I want to keep it on the king, bring it on the king side. Bring it on this open file. Maybe create some activity. I want to put pressure on this knight, so I can push this pass pawn. I can activate this bishop further. That's what more pressure is. So now let's say in this position, really interesting move is rook takes e8. So just no rook e6 or something like that. Just rook takes e8. And the idea is this, and then we win a pawn. So see, it's not about a pawn, it's about activity. Should we allow our opponent's rook to get active? No, so white will still be better. But Gukesh is like, why allow so much activity for a pawn? So in this position, that's why instead of capturing this and taking the pawn, he played rook e6. He's like, I'm not in a rush. I'm just going to improve my pieces. Now, let's say if opponent takes this is just lost. Now, the game continued. Knight b7 was played in this position. So let's say instead of knight b7, if black had played knight c8, you can just improve the rook's position. If knight c7, it's capture d6. By the way, because of that rook e6, that knight is not on d6, activating this bishop. That white can even win more material. Then in this position, after rook e6, Gukesh's opponent played knight b7. He's like, I don't want to go knight c8. She's like, no problem at all. I'll play knight a4. Knight c8 covered the square. Knight b7 doesn't. So putting more pressure on the queen side. And then queen f7 was played. And then Gukesh, look at all the pieces now. Rook e6, knight c6, knight b6. Too much for black to handle. And black soon lost material. And then the game. So the important thing that Gukesh recognized is that even if you have better position, even if you have better placed pieces, you can always improve them. So he brought that rook on e6, and then once he got the opportunity, he improved even this knight's position. He was, even in some variations, he would be willing to bring this rook over here to put pressure on the king side. So that's extremely important, that when you have an advantage, always look for the ways to try to increase it, to try to keep up the pressure on the opponent, and don't get relaxed. So these were some of the instructive examples from the games of Gukesh after becoming Grandmaster, and onwards his journey to the 2600 rating, and in the next video we will look at his journey to the 2700 rating. So more instructive games are coming in the next video. Thanks everyone for joining, and please don't forget to check chessneurons.com, your go-to platform for improving your positional chess. I'll see you in the next video.